Today I'm going to be sharing 5 Solpump Crash tips that I've learned to hopefully save you some money and increase your odds of winning. In other words, I created a completely arbitrary set of rules that seemed to work yesterday, so we're going to go with that and hope for the best. Just before we get into it, if you like this video and you want to support me getting fucking rinsed, go ahead and sign up to Solpump using my link in the description or the pinned comment down below, or use the code WIC. Without further ado, let's get into it. So, here we are on Solpump. Now, the most important thing that I've been trying to figure out is when to skip a game, because that's ultimately what's going to save you money. My approach personally is just to try and win as many games as possible, rather than trying to chase higher numbers, because at the end of the day, you never know when one of those is going to come along, and you can certainly waste a lot of money trying to guess. What I've been doing recently is setting my auto cash out around 1.25 or 1.3x, which sounds low, but bear in mind you're going to win a lot more games. Now, the amount that you play with is obviously up to you. For the sake of this video, I'm just going to do 0.01 sol just in case it doesn't work and we get rinsed, which is a very real possibility. You can do whatever you like, of course, as long as you're playing with money that you can afford to lose. So now we got that sorted, you'll notice up at the top here you can see a history of the results from recent games. Rounds under 1.5x are grey, 1.5 to 2.5x is green, 2.5 to 10x is purple, and over 10x is gold. So tip number 1 is if the game hits a grey round, even if you win, skip the next 2 rounds. The reason for that is a lot of the time you tend to get a few grey rounds in a row, and if you play all of them, obviously you're going to be more likely to lose. In my experience, it's quite rare to get more than 3 or 4 grey rounds in a row, but it does happen sometimes, so just be careful of that. If you want to be really conservative, you can just wait until there's a non-grey round before you start playing again. Remember, you're never going to skip all the bad ones, but every losing round that you do manage to skip increases your odds of winning. So the name of the game is really just trying to skip as many as possible. I've noticed you often tend to get streaks of higher numbers followed by streaks of lower numbers. If you get a really bad streak in numbers, it's usually best to just wait it out for a while until the game improves. Otherwise, you're just going to get rinsed no matter what strategy you go with. Anyway, tip number 2 is never play more than 3 rounds in a row. Again, it's just something I noticed that on average you don't often see more than 3 or 4 winning games in a row. And again, the more bad rounds we skip, the higher the odds of winning. Tip number 3. The biggest mistake that most people make when playing Crash is constantly trying to chase the big numbers. All that really happens is you start getting greedy like I did, and you think, well, if I could just hit one 10x then I'd make it all back. And that's technically true, but if it takes you more than 10 games to hit a 10x, then it's a useless strategy. In my opinion, at least, the best strategy is to focus on just winning as many games as possible with lower x, and giving ourselves the best odds that we can by trying to skip a lot of those bad rounds. Now, to understand why that's a good strategy, you need to understand how this game actually works. Solpump Crash uses something called a pareto distribution curve. Without going into too much detail, that basically means it heavily favors lower numbers. So you're significantly more likely to see grey and green rounds than we are to see purple or gold rounds. Now on top of that, Solpump also adds a 5% house edge. So that means that over the long term, if you were to play every single round with the same amount, it's mathematically impossible to win, which is ultimately how they stay in business. However, skipping rounds introduces an element of randomness, and every one of those losing rounds that we manage to skip starts eating away at that house edge. Also, because you're losing less often, you can start building up your Solpump tokens that you get for playing. Then often by the time you do lose, the Solpump tokens are able to cover all of, or at least some of the loss. Okay, tip number 4 is always play with the same amount. It's very easy when you start to lose a few rounds to get into the mindset that if you just increase your bet, you can make it all back quicker and at least get back to where you started. Sometimes that does work and you get lucky and hit a big win, but it's equally, if not more likely, that you lose it all and now you're just further in the hole for no reason. That's exactly what happened to me yesterday because I got too confident in my strategy, so when I lost a few games, I just started doing bigger bets to make it back, and I ended up completely rinsing the whole balance that I built up in 5 minutes. Anyway, what I'm really getting at here is as long as you're disciplined and you stick to your strategy, you don't increase your bets, you don't try and chase the bigger numbers, then you should have a decent chance of winning. Like I said, yesterday I spent a few hours playing and was able to flip $100 into about 220. The only reason that I lost it again is because I got greedy and stopped following the strategy. So there you have it. Quite literally, the key to winning is to not lose. If you do want to try it out, go ahead and support the channel by using the code WIC on solpump.io, or you can sign up at the link down below. With all that said, good luck everyone. I've been me, you've been you. Thanks for watching and see you later.